Hello, my twisters. Welcome back to my channel. Well, this is a treat because you see, growing up, I had different fairy tales. Very unique fairy tales. Why? Because me and my grandma began to write them ourselves. We wrote them in different ways. So there's maybe the same story written 2 to 3 times, maybe more. It's a collection of what I call twisted tales. Really, I suppose I should call them the Twister's Tales. But regardless, please note that growing up, my upbringing was somewhat different. So these are somewhat very different. Though based from an original, they have been altered to fit Grandma's peculiar lifestyle and needs. Anyway, Ruby Red is the first one. Once upon a time, in a small and quaint village of England, was a very young girl. She was very sweet and so very kind. Everyone loved her and she loved everyone. The village was small, so everyone knew each other's business. Most of the time, so they thought. Now, Ruby Red was different to other girls in the village. One being her hair changed quite a lot, though there was no such things as dyes in that time. Maybe she put plants in them to make them change. Nobody really knew the answer to that. And nobody was excited when she got a beautiful red cloak, woven, given to her from her grandma. It wasn't just any red coat either. In it were sewn herbs and flowers, dried and made in such a way they would last a lifetime. I guess you could say some were jealous of the fabulous cloak, for they'd never seen anything quite like it. Now, she also liked to climb trees. She enjoyed hunting, or at least pretending to hunt. She wasn't actually allowed to properly hunt, of course. Most people called her Ruby. Then the odd ones called her Red. Mainly because when she was born with quite a lot of hair. And it was actually a deep ruby red hair, though it changes now she's getting older. So this kind of fitted her well, Ruby or Red. Ruby Red. Either one she was called. Her skin was very pale, but she had big beautiful eyes. And as she grew, she became a beautiful young woman. I mean, she was very beautiful. Again, though, she was still different. She could name every herb, every tree, every flower, and her knowledge did indeed scare people slightly. She lived in a small cottage down Walloon. Her parents had passed away, and her grandma had moved on to the next realm. If anyone needed help, they would go knocking on her door, all hours of the day and all hours of the night, and she would answer. She would come to the door and give them what they needed. No matter the help that was asked, she would do it willingly. She enjoyed this. The only time no one could seem to find her was when the moon was full. But some had spied, and spied indeed did they well, for they saw her slip into the woods. And this brought some talk among a few families. As you might think, us humans, we tend to do that. We judge and talk. So they did. Talk of her being a witch. What would she be doing so late in the woods? Why would she be there only on a full moon? What on earth was she up to? However, No one said a thing to her face. No, how could they? She helped them. You know, she helped the village so much. So they just whispered and whispered. They had no idea that she knew exactly what their whispers were saying. The wind, the wind would tell her. On the breeze, the whispers would be carried to her ear. So she knew, and she definitely did not forget the bullying she had endured growing up. Being different made her a target, because, you know, they wanted to fancify her as a pretty little girl and marry her off as soon as she was old enough. But no, 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 no. This was not what she wanted at all. You know what they say about a person. They can only take so much, because eventually they will lose it. By the time Miss Ruby Red was 18, she really had had enough. Ungrateful people making demands. Not a penny have I asked for, not a penny. And there they go, they whisper behind my back. This turned her heart from red on love to black cold hate for all of the village people. So this particular night, when the moon was full, bright in the sky, she put a red cloak over her and she made her way into the woods. This was her usual thing, so it did not seem unusual to those with prying eyes. It wasn't long, though. This night, she returned, and she wasn't alone. Oh, no. One particular beast, 7 foot tall, bulky, a huge wolf creature that could stand up like a man, followed her out of the shadows. There were more wolves trailing behind. So, the village, being nosy as they were spying through the windows, watching what was happening. She could not help but stare right back at them, so that they knew, she knew, they were looking. Ruby stood centre of a small village with a torch. This was a very large stick with fire on the end. They didn't have proper torches. She spoke to all of the villagers, and her voice seemed to impose an echo, almost like it bounced off every single tree in those woods and came back to the village. It was very, very enchanting, her voice, though. All you people, each and every one of you, long have I been hated by you, yet you dare come to me for help. Unfaithful husbands, needing treatment for cheating diseases. Pregnant, cheating wives, in need of a quick fix to rid the fetus growing inside your bellies that does not belong to your husband. Young men, young ladies, wanting love potions, tempting those they would never have got without my help. Yet, you're nothing but ungrateful. My heart has turned dark with your whispers carried on the wind to my ears. Tonight, vengeance is mine, and no one shall survive. All the villagers had come out of their house. They did not know whether to run, hide, lock their doors. Some did, however. With a quick snap of her fingers, the beast howled and growled as wolves from the forest gathered around this beast. All you could hear then were the screams of the villagers. They would not be heard by anybody else, unless you were in the village, though they did echo. No one else will hear the villagers scream. Even when they had gone inside, the beast simply ripped doors from their houses and cottages, smashed through the windows of the houses, and inside ripped them all to pieces. Every single one. Then everyone was dead. The village was eerily silent. You could hear nothing. Not a cricket, not a bird. Just heavy breathing. This was the excitement, the breathing in Ruby's voice, because she was excited from what she had just done. The wolves of the forest took pieces of flesh, arms, hands, whatever they fancied, back into the woods, came back for more. This was their feast. This was their offering. When morning came, the beast, by the way, still a beast, not a man, was snoozing the day away. The wolves back in the woods to their dens. Ruby was now alone in a village of blood. No people, not one, but her. She was there, in the blood of the villagers. Remains and bits and pieces, and she danced. She danced and she sang because she was so happy of her revenge. Never trust the heart of a witch, for it can turn black and cold. Never talk or whisper bad of a witch, for her actions shall become bold. Never trust the heart of a witch, for it can turn black and cold. And never talk or whisper bad of a witch, for her actions can become bold. As she danced and sung, she went through houses, taking what she wanted, loading everything onto a cart that she did not have to carry. The beast was under her command, and the beast happily pulled the cart away to a cabin Ruby had, long deep in the woods where she'd been practicing her dark magic. And that's where she stayed from that day forth. She lived deep in the woods with her beast. And her ghost still wanders to this day. This is a tale I do tell thee, of how Little Red Riding Hood went completely insane and sold her soul to the devil. The end. Thank you for listening, guys. I hope you liked that. Yes, that's our edition of Little Red Riding Hood. I can't take all the credit. My grandma had a style she liked. Bear in mind, these are stories I were told before bedtime. But still, the twister tales are coming. There's so many more to endure. I hope you have what it takes. Many blessings.